Now, your host, Ken Brew, on News Radio 700 WLW.
It's the average American in for the great American on this Wednesday. Great you are with us as well. Because without you, where would any of us be? It's that time of the year when companies, some, not all, in fact, a shrinking number of companies, to be honest with you, hand out bonuses or something for a quote-unquote job well done. But they occur at various other times during the year. If projects are done, perhaps under budget, if projects are done that makes the consumer of your company, whomever that person may be, if it makes them happy, if you've gone and done something that was not expected over and above the top, you get a little recognition, particularly if your company is a good company. But what of these bonuses, these incentives that now become in some cases, by some people, expected and not a surprise? In 2020, Wells Fargo paid $3 billion to settle claims that employees had committed widespread consumer abuses, including opening millions of dollars of unauthorized or outright bogus accounts, forging signatures, and moving money from real accounts to fake ones. Why? Well, to make themselves look good to the people that run the company. Now, we see it in all walks of life. We see it in education. We see it in medicine. And it can lead to a very unhealthy work environment. Incentives are good in a sense, in theory, but bad when not executed properly. I don't have to tell my next guest that. She knows. She is a business strategist, and Denise Gosnell is kind enough to give us some of her time to address this very thing. Denise, how are you on this glorious Wednesday?
Hey there, Ken. I'm doing awesome today. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you're here because as an employee for many years, I always look forward to a little something extra at Christmas. As an employee with various employers, I always try to do my best and thought if I did something a little extra, maybe I would be recognized. It might not be something, enormous like a car or a yacht, but it might be something that would say job well done. But apparently this stuff can get out of control, in particular with professions where we rely on that profession to help us be better people, whether it's doctors or education. So where's the line here that you really can't cross if you're an employer with incentives?
Yeah, it's a great question, Ken, and it's a tricky problem because there's two sides to this problem. There's the proverbial hamster wheel that so many business owners and employers are caught on, where their business owners don't take time off. They don't want the employees taking much time off. And so people are like worked to the bone, and, they want to be rewarded. They want to be incentivized. But like you were saying in the Wells Fargo situation, when people are frustrated or they're not being feeling like they're getting what they're expected to get, they might take it too far. So you actually have to work on building a program that focuses on real outcomes that are not ripe to be abused. For example, Wells Fargo could have taken it further and asked, okay, how could this be abused? When you're building incentives, it's important to make sure you think through how could people abuse it. Like Amazon has verified reviews. Have you noticed that before, Ken? With
Yep.
Amazon doesn't just let anyone post a review.
Exactly.
So they've thought through the whole book world, right?
Yeah.
That's what Wells Fargo started doing. They could have done you have to have 90 days of direct deposits before you earn the client has to have deposited 90 days of their paycheck into that account for you to earn that bonus, or some other kind of thing to measure that. Does that make sense?
It does. And it sounds like that this is an issue really with upper management, maybe even at the C-suite level, in trying to not only increase productivity at all costs, but maybe in a perverted way, trying to keep employees happy so they don't walk and go someplace else when they have maybe some other options. It sounds like one of those good ideas that just gets out of control when it leaves the C-suite.
Yeah, it's such a problem that I'm really passionate about, in that I'm on a mission to help companies focus on rewarding their employees for results instead of the time that they spend punching a clock. Because, Ken, if you can get the same results in half the time, you deserve to be rewarded with it. You want to take Friday off and go golfing, but you got everything done in half the time as your colleagues? why should you be expected to pack on twice as much work with that time?
Sure.
Because you should be rewarded for that, right, in some way.
Sure.
But on the other side of that, it's ripe for abuse if employers don't think through their incentives in a way that will keep people from abusing it, like in the Wells Fargo and many other situations.
Yeah, and the incentives, I think you're saying, have to be realistic. They can't be, over the top things that are either unattainable or attainable only by, a finite number of employees, and that then leads to a problem, which in the case of Wells Fargo was cheating. But in another sense too, I think if you're going to this incentive-based operation, it could cut down on things like creativity, because people become so focused on getting that done, whatever that may be, an extra grand, or it might be a case of champagne, so focused on getting that done that they might let other areas of what they're supposed to be working on slip by the wayside. So, I mean, again, if you're going to incentive-based compensation, you've got to keep a tight rein on what's going on and a lot of eyes on it. I would if I was running a company. I'm sure you would too.
Absolutely. Well, and like in my own companies, I have 3 different companies. Like, we don't micromanage our employees. And I think that's the line that so many companies cross, is that they're still treating people like we're in the 1900s, making people punch a time clock. I mean, maybe not literally these days, but managers are often like micromanaging their people and being like, I don't feel like Betty put her 45 hours in this week, or, Jimmy left too early again so many times to pick up his child. Well, if Jimmy is producing, who cares?
Yeah.
Lay off of your people and stop the micromanagement. And that's what drives people to often do things they shouldn't. And don't get me wrong, character plays into it as well, but good people, when they feel like they're being taken advantage of, they feel like they're getting even when they do some of those kinds of things. And I'm not justifying the Wells Fargo fraud situation.
Yeah.
That's a crime outright. But there's a little minor versions of that in between that employers have to take into mind, to keep in mind when they're planning their incentives.
Well,
incentives are good, but they can be taken too far. Sorry, Ken, go ahead. Denise,
if you've got to micromanage, or you think you have to micromanage, you've hired the wrong person. Hire good people and let them do what they were hired to do, and don't let your anal retentiveness hold them back from doing what they need to do to make you better. And again, I think it goes to who are some of these people are running these companies. I think their heart may be in the right place. They want to reward employees, but they really don't know how to do it properly, at least.
Right.
And I think for example, like if you say to an employee, okay, this is what we need to get done, and this is what we need to get, this is when we need to get it done, and we need to get it done here and properly, it's human nature to that employee is just to laser focus on that and then leave other things aside. So it's kind of like short-term versus long-term thinking. It doesn't enhance the future of the business if all you're looking at is what you have to get done in the next 30 days, but yet it goes on. I don't know why. I don't know why it is that way. Maybe people get promoted up, Denise, from a lower level to the upper level, and all of a sudden they're in charge, and it's like, well, what am I going to do now? Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. I'm spitballing, but maybe it does.
Well, actually, you're onto something big there, Ken. So I believe that the American grind is one of the greatest cause of workaholism, which has become this respected form of addiction. Like, we criticize drug abusers and alcoholics and everything else, but why are we not criticizing the workaholics like I used to be, that work 80 hours a week and because we're addicted to the cycle of growth and meeting the goals that we've set for ourselves, our companies, and our employees. Then we start putting that expectation on our team. So to solve this problem, I think we have to recognize we have a cultural workforce problem that I call the American grind. Mm-hmm. And until we come to terms with that, and then start changing our culture from the inside out, then there is nothing, we're never going to solve this dichotomy.
It may solve it for people that don't understand that it isn't 1981, 82 anymore. And that is, I sense, and this is not a broad brush of any particular age group, but I think the Gen Zers, they want jobs that fit their lifestyle. They don't want a job that the company is everything and they're beholden to the company. And when 6 o'clock comes, the company sends an email out, you have to respond to it immediately or whatever. I think maybe culturally, that problem gets solved. I think it's getting solved in a lot of places quickly. What about you?
Yeah, I think that they're demanding, the younger generation is demanding more of that, but a lot of companies haven't adapted to that yet. So they may have a harder time attracting younger talent as the workforce continues to age. But it's definitely something that is so ingrained in my entrepreneurial circles that I'm in that it's tough. It's been tough to break through and get through to people, because when you're in it as a business owner, you don't realize you're in it. Like a workaholic doesn't want to admit they're a workaholic. They don't know they are. They just know they're doing it for their family. You know, the business owner and the managers, they're doing it for their family to provide a good life for their family, and their boss expects them to be there all the time. The business owner expects themselves to be there all the time. So it makes employees feel like you're expecting them to be there all the time too. So that's the real problem.
You said you own 3 companies. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
What kind of companies do you own?
So I have a coaching company for entrepreneurs. I have a law firm, and my husband and I own a real estate company.
Wow. Holy crow. That's not only diverse, that's a lot of work. But my guess is what you're preaching here would not make those companies that you have successful, right? I mean, if you're preaching don't be a workaholic, don't force your employees to be a workaholic. One of the reasons why your companies must be successful is because you practice what you preach.
Exactly. That's why my team members love working with us. And, you know, I think it comes back to one of the things you were talking about a minute ago, Ken, about rewarding people not just for money. I mean, money is definitely important, but there are a lot of studies that I've read over the years that talked about employee happiness a lot of times just comes from the pure act of being appreciated. Like me telling them good job and sending them home early after an amazing thing that they did, or sending them tickets take their family to the theater and getting to know them as a human being, and like genuinely loving and appreciating them as a human and caring about them. That's more what people want than, you know, the higher salary. Look, a lot of times they'll take a job for less money if they had that and they feel truly valued.
Sure, it builds up their self-esteem, and it gives them confidence in the job that the next time things get tough, they're not going to be the first one out the door. And you got to get, it's all touch. And I'm not a Gen Z or a millennial or anything like that, but I think they get that's what they want to, that kind of culture is what they want to be involved in, and not necessarily the kind of culture that I came up in, where you had to be there, and if it was a holiday, it doesn't matter. If you had to do something, you had to be there. And I think in the long run, whether or not there's any kind of research to bear out this next statement, maybe there is, maybe you've got it. I think it just makes companies more profitable in the long run, and less turmoil in the long run in terms of turnover. I would have to think somewhere, someplace, there's a study that says that, and it's just making sure that everybody reads the damn thing. Is there a study that says that?
You know, that I've seen studies that talk about things like unlimited vacation time, which is along the lines of what you're talking about. You know, and I actually allow my employees to pretty much take vacation whenever they want. They don't abuse it because I hired good people. But the answer is always yes. Like very rarely are they ever turned down on a vacation request. They just let me know in advance when they need to be gone, and the answer is always yes. Yeah. You know, obviously if there's a scenario where it wasn't, I would let them know, but I can't even think of one right now where it was denied.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm beyond recruiting. I've never sold a house in my life, and I don't have a law degree, so I can't come work for you, unfortunately.
Hey, that's okay. But no, I mean, I think this is a good conversation. And the other part of it is the whole pandemic has changed this workforce and what they expect. Yeah. People now have proven that they can work from home, and they want more. Mm-hmm.
They sure do. Where can people find you, by the way? What do you have a company name? I don't. Somebody told me vacationeffect.com. Is that correct?
That's one of my websites, but my best website is vacationeffectbook.com. That's my new book that just came out about these very topics of the American grind. It's the Vacation Effect for Entrepreneurs, so vacationeffectbook.com, or my personal website, denisegosnell.com. That's just my first and last name.com, denisegosnell.com.
Outstanding. Denise, good stuff. I wish there were more people around like you. I really do. And hopefully we can visit down the road. Thank you so much.
I look forward to it. Thanks, Ken. Have a great day.
You bet.